The Notebook, Nicholas Sparks. Chapter 1, Miracles. Who am I, and how, I wonder, will the story end? The sun has come up, and I am sitting by a window that is foggy with the breath of a life gone by. I'm a sight this morning. 2 shirts, heavy pants, a scarf wrapped twice around my neck, and tucked into a thick sweater knitted by my daughter 30 birthdays ago. The thermostat in my room is set as high as it will go, and a smaller space heater sits directly behind me. 2 clicks and groans and spews hot air like a fairy tale dragon, and still my body shivers with the cold that will never go away, a cold that has been 80 years in the making. 80 years. I wonder if this is how it is for everyone my age. My life? It isn't easy to explain. It has not been the rip-roaring spectacular I fancied it would be, but neither have I burrowed around with the gophers. I suppose it has most resembled a blue chip stock. Fairly stable, more ups than downs, and gradually trending upwards over time. I've learned that not everyone can say this about his life. But do not be misled. I am nothing special. Of this I am sure. I am a common man with common thoughts, and I've led a common life. There are no monuments dedicated to me, and my name will soon be forgotten, but I've loved another with all my heart and soul, and to me this has always been enough. The romantics would call this a love story. The cynics would call it a tragedy. In my mind, it's a bit of both, and no matter how you choose to view it, in the end, it does not change the fact that it involves a great deal of my life. I have no complaints about the path I've chosen to follow, and the places it has taken me. The path has always been the right one. I wouldn't have had it any other way. Time, unfortunately, doesn't make it easy to stay on course. The path is straight as ever, but now it is strewn with the rocks and gravel that accumulate over a lifetime. Until 3 years ago, it would have been easy to ignore, but it's impossible now. There's a sickness rolling through my body. I'm neither strong nor healthy, and my days are spent like an old party balloon, listless, spongy, and growing softer over time. I cough, and through squinted eyes I check my watch. I realize it is time to go, and I stand and shuffle across the room, stopping at the desk to pick up the notebook I've read 100 times. I slip it beneath my arm and continue on my way to the place I must go. I walk on tiled floors, white speckled with gray. Like my hair and the hair of most people here, though I'm not the only one in the hallway this morning. They're in their rooms, alone except for television, but they, like me, are used to it. A person can get used to anything given enough time. I hear the muffled sounds of crying in the distance and know who is making them. The nurses see me and we smile and exchange greetings. I'm sure they wonder about me. and the things that I go through every day. I listen as they begin to whisper among themselves when I pass. There he goes again, I hear. I hope it turns out well, but they say nothing directly to me about it. A minute later, I reach the room. The door has been propped open for me, as it usually is. There are 2 nurses in the room, and as I enter, they say good morning with cheery voices, and I take a moment to ask about the kids and the schools and upcoming vacations. We talk about the crying for a minute or so. They do not seem to notice. They've become numb to it, but then again, so have I. Afterwards, I sit in a chair that has come to be shaped like me. They're finishing up now. Her clothes are on, but she is crying. It'll become quieter after they leave, I know. The excitement of the morning always upsets her, and today is no exception. Finally, the nurses walk out. Both of them touch me and smile as they walk by. I sit for just a second and stare at her, but she doesn't return the look. I understand, for she doesn't know who I am. I'm a stranger to her. Then, turning away, I howl my head and pray silently for the strength I know I will need. Ready now. On go the glasses. Out of my pocket comes a magnifier. I put it on the table for a moment while I open the notebook. It takes 2 licks on my gnarled fingers to get to the well-worn cover, open to the first page. Then I put my magnifier in place. There's always a moment right before I begin to read the story when my mind churns and I wonder, will it happen today? I don't know, for I never know beforehand, and deep down it really doesn't matter. It's the possibility that keeps me going. And though you may call me a dreamer or a fool, I believe that anything is possible. I realize that the odds in science are against me, but science is not the total answer. This I know. This I have learned in my lifetime. And that leaves me with the belief that miracles, no matter how inexplicable or unbelievable, are real and can occur without regard to the natural order of things. So once again, just as I do every day, I begin to read the notebook out aloud so that she can hear it, in the hope that the miracle that has come to dominate my life will once again prevail. And maybe, just maybe it will. Chapter 2, Ghosts. It was early October 1946, and Noah Calhoun watched the fading sun sink lower from the porch of his plantation-style home. He liked to sit here in the evenings, especially after working hard all day, and let his thoughts wander. It was how he relaxed, a routine he'd learned from his father. It was how he relaxed, a routine he'd learned from his father. He especially liked to look at the trees and the reflections in the river. North Carolina trees are beautiful. He especially liked to look at the trees and the reflection in the river. North Carolina trees are beautiful in deep autumn. Greens, yellows, reds, oranges, every shade in between, their dazzling colors glowing with the sun. The house was built in 1772, making it one of the oldest as well as largest homes in New Bern. Originally, it was the main house on a working plantation, and he had bought it right after the war ended, and he spent the last 11 months and a small fortune repairing it. The reporter from the Raleigh paper had done an article on it a few weeks ago and said it was one of the finest restorations he'd ever seen. At least the house was. The rest of the property was another story, and that was where Noah had spent most of the day. The home sat on 12 acres adjacent to the Bryce's Creek, and he'd worked on the wooden fences that lined the other 3 sides of the property, checking for dry rot or termites, replacing posts where he had to. He still had more work to do on the west side, and as he'd put the tools away earlier, he'd made a mental note to call and have some more timber delivered. He'd gone into the house, drunk a glass of sweet tea, then showered, the water washing away dirt and fatigue. Afterwards, he combed his hair back, put on some faded jeans and a long-sleeved blue shirt, poured himself another glass of tea, and gone to the porch where he sat every day at this time. He reached for his guitar, remembering his father as he did so, thinking how much he missed him. Noah strummed once, adjusted the tension on 2 strings, then strummed again, soft, quiet music. He hummed at first, then began to sing as night came down around him. It was a little after 7 when he stopped and settled back into his rocking chair. By habit, he looked upwards and saw Orion, the Big Dipper, and the Pole Star twinkling in the autumn sky. He started to run the numbers in his head, then stopped. He knew he'd spent almost his entire savings on the house and would have to find a job again soon, but he pushed the thought away and decided to enjoy the remaining months of restoration without worrying about it. It would work out for him, he knew. It always did. Sam, his hound dog, came up to him then and nuzzled his hand before lying down at his feet. "Hey girl, how are you doing?" he asked as he patted her head, and she whined softly, her soft round eyes peering upward. A car accident had taken one of her legs, but she still moved well enough and kept him company on nights like these. He was 31 now, not too old, but old enough to be lonely. He hadn't dated since he'd been back here, hadn't met anyone who was remotely interested in him. It was his own fault, he knew. There was something that kept a distance between him and any woman who started to get close, something he wasn't sure he could change even if he tried, and sometimes, in the moments before sleep, he wondered if he was destined to be alone forever. The The evening passed, staying warm and nice. Noah listened to the crickets and the rustling leaves, thinking that the sound of nature was more real and aroused more emotion than things like cars and planes. Natural things gave back more than they took, and their sounds always brought him back to the way man was supposed to be. There were times during the war, especially after a major engagement, when he'd often thought about these simple sounds. It'll keep you from going crazy, his father had told them the day he'd shipped out. It's God's music, and it'll take you home.